In the past week, we learned that President Donald Trump had a plan to release apprehended illegal immigrants into sanctuary cities. Initially, this was denied, but later confirmed by Trump himself. And the latest update from yesterday, Sarah Sanders confirms this option is on the table. Naturally, there are many on the left who are outraged, saying that Trump doesn't have the legal authority to be shipping immigrants across the country. But many people on the right view this as Trump effectively calling their bluff. The left likes to conflate illegal immigrants and immigrants who enter legally. The right does not. So by doing this, many people on the right feel that the left will be exposed for what they truly think. And strangely enough, it seems like we may have seen that when Cher tweeted out what is effectively an America First message saying there's already too many people in LA, and Donald Trump followed up saying he agreed with her. This is all very, very weird. So today, let's take a look at exactly what's going on with this immigration story and how Cher and then Trump responded. But before we get started, make sure you follow me over on Minds at minds.com/Timcast, where I'm hoping to break 100,000 subscribers with your help. Sign up there. I'm trying to be more active, and I'd prefer not to be on the big monopolistic social media networks. Now, if you want to support this video, just share it on social media to help spread the message. From CNN yesterday, Sarah Sanders, transferring immigrants to sanctuary cities is an option on the table. White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders said Sunday that the Trump administration was still considering whether to place some immigrants in so-called sanctuary cities. Look, this is an option on the table, Sanders said on ABC's This Week. Sanders said the move would not be President Trump's first choice, but remained something the administration might do. She said when the idea was brought up at a staff level, the administration had not moved forward with it because logistically, there were a lot of challenges and it probably didn't make sense to move forward, but was now under consideration again. The president heard the idea, he likes it, so well, we're looking to see if there are options that make it possible and doing a full and thorough and extensive review. Trump confirmed on Friday that his administration was looking at the idea of releasing immigrants into so-called sanctuary cities, in part to retaliate against Democrats undercutting earlier denials from his own administration officials. Trump tweeted just out, "The USA has the absolute legal right to have apprehended illegal immigrants transferred to sanctuary cities. We hereby demand that they be taken care of at the highest level, especially by the state of California, which is well known for its poor management and high taxes." I think he meant for. CNN highlights some of the responses. One from House Judiciary Chairman Jerry Nadler, who said, "Trump has no right to spend money appropriated by Congress for other purposes to ship immigrants all over the country." Washington's Democratic Governor Jay Inslee said, "Number one, look, you can't threaten somebody with something they're not afraid of. And we are not afraid of diversity in the state of Washington. We relish it." Florida GOP Senator Rick Scott said, "I don't know whether it's legal or illegal. I mean, maybe he's just saying this to make everybody crazy, make everybody talk about it on their news shows." But while there is a question of legality, we are seeing people on the right kind of laugh about the idea. This story today from the Daily Caller. Former ICE Director Tom Homan makes the case for Trump's sanctuary city plan. Appearing on Fox and Friends, he said, "Illegal aliens are already going to sanctuary cities. That's one of the reasons they're coming. They want to get someplace where they can be protected from ICE and get free social benefits. They can get driver's licenses. They can get in-state tuition. They can get college assistance. What the president did, I thought, was ingenious. He called their bluff." Homan said Democrats are only for open borders and lax immigration policies so long as migrants and refugees aren't living in their neighborhoods. What Trump did was he pulled the curtain back on the Democratic leadership, showing the hypocrisy that they said they wanted these people in the U.S. They want open borders as long as it's not in my district, as long as it's not in my neighborhood. We're fine with it, he said. So I think he pulled the curtain back, and I think it was an ingenious move on his part. He went on to say, "They know this is a crisis on the border. The videos clearly show it. The data clearly shows it," he said. "The tens of thousands released into the street clearly show it. This is, I've said it many times on this show, this is about resisting the president. This is about not helping him fix this problem and closing the loopholes because this is his number one campaign promise." Now, there are a few things we need to break down here. Tom Homan says he's calling their bluff, but I'm going to say this. In reality, I think the Democrats are actually fine with this. They really do want to protect these immigrants from deportation. And by having them in sanctuary cities, they would be doing so. And effectively, Trump would be restricting his ability to then enforce deportation against them once he's given them up to sanctuary cities or states. But before we look into the bluff, I do want to point out this from the Wall Street Journal reported in March. The number of families traveling in groups since October exceeds record for a full 12-month period. From October through February, border agents arrested 136,150 people traveling in families at the southern border. Those figures exceeded the record for a full 12-month period. 107,212 people were arrested during the federal fiscal year that ended in September. For a full year period, it is less than a 5-month period. So we've already exceeded last year's record. Whether or not you want to say that's a crisis or not, we do have a serious issue that needs to be resolved. Now, in response to a lot of these issues, we've seen many people on the left saying, I will take people in, or you should take people in, and many Republicans saying, why don't you take people in? And Cher, in 2017, tweeted, "Those who can must take a dreamer into their home and protect them. I'm ready to do this, and others in my business will do the same. Sanctuary." This tweet seems to be primarily about dreamers, which is different from the general concept of illegal immigrants, though dreamers would qualify as illegal immigrants. She goes on to say sanctuary. But then something interesting and really weird happened yesterday. Cher tweeted this: "I understand helping struggling immigrants, but my city, Los Angeles, isn't taking care of its own. What about the 50,000 plus American citizens who live on the streets, people who live below poverty line and are hungry? If my state can't take care of its own, many are vets. How can it take care of more?" This is a pretty mind-blowing tweet for several reasons. Cher was seemingly on the left. She's a celebrity in Malibu, which you'd assume would be more aligned with the left. But here she is talking about the plight of American citizens, saying it's my city first, and talking about the veterans. It seems to be that either she had a change of heart, or she is now coming out as a more moderate individual saying, America first. And in what may be the strangest turn after that, Donald Trump screenshotted the tweet and said, "I finally agree with Cher." But I will point out, while Cher is seen as a Hollywood liberal type, she has been a bit moderate. We saw this story January 10th, 2019. Cher urges Nancy Pelosi to fund border wall to end partial government shutdown. Many people are surprised to see Cher coming out. She once said, bring people into your home, sanctuary, but now says, what about my city? I don't think this is actually hypocrisy. I think it's showing that, to an extent, many people who are liberal are still fairly moderate. At an event, someone asked Bernie Sanders about supporting open borders, and he rejected the idea outright. What's happening is that social media is making the conversation more extreme, and it's highlighting the extremists. So people then begin to believe the Democrats are more extreme than they really are. While there are Democrats in Congress who are fairly extreme, as I've shown in many graphs and many videos, the median Democrat has actually stayed the same over the past several years. Cher coming out and saying this, it's actually a moderate liberal position. Because remember, about 10 years ago, most Democrats were in favor of border security. In my opinion, I think Democrats are chasing after the extreme rhetoric from their activist base because they assume it's what the entire base wants. Finally, there's a snap, and Cher comes out and says, no, we don't want this. But admittedly, while many people might say this is hypocrisy and Trump is calling their bluff, there are still left-wing organizations saying, no, 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 no. Trump's plan to bring illegal immigrants into our cities is a good idea. Just yesterday, PBS NewsHour posted this story. Trump's sanctuary city idea could help migrants stay in U.S. They say an idea floated by President Donald Trump to send immigrants from the border to sanctuary cities to exact revenge on Democratic foes could end up doing the migrants a favor by placing them in locations that make it easier to put down roots and stay in the country. The plan would put thousands of immigrants in cities that are not only welcoming to them, but also more likely to rebuff federal officials carrying out deportation orders. Many of these locations have more resources to help immigrants make their legal cases to stay in the United States than smaller cities. With some of the nation's biggest immigration advocacy groups based in places like San Francisco, New York City, and Chicago, the downside for the immigrants would be a high cost of living in the cities. But while you're going to see some celebrities come out like Cher and say, no way, and while you're going to see some advocacy groups say, yes, bring them in, the reality is, if they released this many undocumented immigrants into these cities, it would probably strain the resources of those cities and cause problems. And that's probably why Cher is saying, what about the 50,000 plus people already here? There are many illegal immigrants that are already in Los Angeles, and Los Angeles has one of the highest populations of homeless people. So they're facing real challenges. And if they have to contend with many more people seeking asylum or entering the country illegally, yes, it's going to strain them very much so. In response to the tweet from Cher, some people are highlighting this past tweet from Donald Trump, where he said, "My Twitter has become so powerful that I can actually make my enemies tell the truth." But also, you have many people actually kind of praising Cher for coming out on what they perceive as the right side of the argument. The Persistence on Twitter said, "Hi Cher, in all seriousness, I know that you detest Donald Trump and that's your choice. But this tweet from you is so good and so true. All Trump supporters are trying to say is that we need to take care of our people. Take care of our poor and suffering." In a conversation I had with a Trump supporter, I talked about how many people don't like Trump for his personality. And the response was, "Sure, but whether or not you like him doesn't change whether or not his policies are effective and will benefit Americans." And that's a really important point. Even Cher, who doesn't like Trump, has come out saying America first, and you actually have conservatives saying, spot on, by all means don't like the president. And that's something really fascinating to me, because on my second channel, I often will just devolve into an anti-Trump tirade, but usually recognizing that some of the policies Trump enacts do have a positive effect for people, and I understand why others are supporting him, to which most Trump supporters say, I respect you in not liking the president, and I respect you for recognizing that some of it is good and some of it is bad. I think there really are reasonable people who are looking for good conversations. Unfortunately, it's not everybody, and you often end up with rather extreme rhetoric, which results in this idea that people in the Democratic Party really want the far left. But as I've outlined in many of my videos, we know that most Democrats want moderate policy. And the Democrats as a party, in my opinion, are being blinded by social media, believing this is what people want. And this isn't necessarily evidence of that, but as an aside, we saw this story in December. Kirsten Gillibrand's invocation of intersectionality backfires. Kirsten Gillibrand posted, "The future is female, intersectional, powered in our belief in one another." She was one of the most outspoken intersectional identitarians when it came to the 2020 candidate announcement. They claimed in The Atlantic it backfired on her, because it's true. The feminists on Twitter are a fringe minority relative to most of America. And this has been documented by CNN and the New York Times. And then when you see something like this from Cher, it kind of makes you realize, whoa, maybe even the left-wing celebrities have an understanding of why borders are important. But in response to the Kirsten Gillibrand thing, let's see how she's doing today. She took a big bet on the far-left identitarian policy and practice. So how is she faring in the polls? This morning, Philip Wegman posted this new National Emerson poll. Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, Buttigieg, O'Rourke, Harris, Warren, Yang, and Castro in the top, but I don't see Gillibrand. When we look to this, we can see that of all of the named politicians, Gillibrand is at 0%, well behind, quote, someone else. There's more and more evidence every single day that moderate mainstream Democrats do not want the fringe regressive left, identitarianism, intersectional feminism, whatever you want to call it. And Cher's tweet is just another example of that. While maybe Trump's plan won't make sense because it'll cost too much money, and maybe it could actually backfire and end up protecting many more illegal immigrants, the reality is actually simple. Most people who care about these issues are not fringe and far left, but they are taking the spotlight. And the Democrats who are chasing after them are losing out, fracturing their base. And as you've just seen, Kirsten Gillibrand, 0% as of this morning. Maybe not such a good idea to chase after the far left policies of the Democratic Socialists. Not even Cher wants open borders. Not even Bernie Sanders wants open borders. But the DSA does. The Democratic Socialists have protested in numerous cities saying abolish borders, and even Ocasio-Cortez wants to abolish ICE. These are not mainstream positions. But let me know what you think in the comments below. We'll keep the conversation going. Ultimately, do you think Trump's plan is a good idea? Do you think it'll actually put pressure on these sanctuary cities, or do you think it would backfire and actually protect the illegal immigrants and stop Trump from deporting them? Comment below, we'll keep the conversation going. You can follow me on Minds at Timcast. Stay tuned, new videos every day at 4 p.m. Eastern, and I'll have more videos for you on my second channel, youtube.com/TimcastNews, starting at 6 p.m. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all next time.